Hi guys! Today I want to show you how to connect Digitakt 2 to SH-4d. What I want to do is to control the 4 synth tracks and the rhythm track from SH-4d with as many tracks from Digitakt 2. Why do I want to do this? First, to have the Elektron sequencer, which is more advanced than the one in SH-4d, which, remember, as it says here, is a 4-part synthesizer plus a rhythmic part. So it is not a groove box. It does not have evolved sequencing functions, although I must say, all in all, it is a very easy sequencer to use and you can use it as I do and as I know many of you do. But if we want to go into more detail and exploit the trig conditions, the probability in a more driven way, then we have to turn to a much more advanced sequencer, like the Elektron sequencer. Not only that, we know that Digitakt 2 has 16 tracks that can be audio or MIDI. So, with this setup, in addition to the 5 tracks of the SH-4d controlled by as many tracks of the Digitakt 2, we will have another 11 tracks that can be MIDI, i.e. controlling other instruments, or, as in our example now, they will be audio tracks. But let's go in order and start with the SH-4d. And let's start with the sounds. Let's select the sound of track 1 to be used, for example, for an arpeggio. This can fit. Track 2 sound. Too similar to the other one. It might be okay. Let's see what the other one sounded like. Too similar. Let's pick another one. Let's go to the plug category. This one is not bad. Let's choose it. On track 3, as you know, I put always the bass because 3 reminds me of 303. Let's see what there is. (1901) bass. We like it. On track 4, I usually put a pad. Here now I have cinematic. Alright, it fits. And on track 5, let's leave the synthesizer kit. As you can hear, what I play on SH-4d, they also play the respective pads of Digitakt. The reason, and this is something that some people ask me, is the MIDI connection I made on the back of the instrument. You see back here we have 2 MIDI cables, MIDI in and MIDI out, or rather, to be precise, MIDI out and MIDI in. The MIDI in of SH-4d comes from the MIDI out of Digitakt, while the MIDI out of SH-4d goes to the MIDI in of Digitakt. In this way, the two instruments are mutually connected. This means that each controls the other. But in this particular case, we don't want the SH-4d control the Digitakt. So we go into the settings, MIDI config, then port config, and under MIDI input we select disabled, so that from SH-4d we can no longer play Digitakt, but only the reverts. So now it only plays the SH-4d drum. Another important thing to do, let's go to menu and then system settings, let's go to the MIDI part. Let's look at the control channel right away, which we're not interested in right now, but which is used to make sure that when we use an external controller, for example, my Arturia keystep 37, the control channel is the channel on which I set the MIDI transmission of the keystep, and that allows me to play every time the active track of SH-4d. Maybe we'll look at this better in another video. Going further, then we find the MIDI channel of each track, which, again by default, correspond to the part number, and so part 1 MIDI channel 1, part 2 MIDI channel 2, part 3 channel 3, part 4 channel 4, and the rhythm part is on MIDI channel 10. These are the default values, and we keep sticking to them. At this point, we move to our Digitakt. We start with an empty pattern, and starting with track 1, we set it to MIDI mode. Having defined it as a MIDI track, we go to Source, and by pressing Function and the first knob, we go to set the MIDI channel, which for ease, being track 1, we are going to set it to MIDI channel 1. That means it will play the channel 1 of the SH-4d, which, as we saw earlier, corresponds to the part 1 of the Roland. It doesn't work because I did something wrong. This part I will not cut it out, as mistakes like this could happen to you too. So let's take the opportunity to explain how to get out of a situation like this. It doesn't even sound directly from SH-4d, so we understand that the problem is audio. And then here, I forgot to tell you another thing about the connections and specifically about the audio. In fact, you see here that the audio out of SH-4d with the two yellow 6.3 mm jacks goes into the audio in of Digitakt. Therefore, by clicking Function and Mixer several times, we reach this screen where we can set the volume of the input into the Digitakt, which by default is 0. In this way. Okay, at this point we go to track 1. Sorry, here's the track 1. And we finally get to play the SH-4d from Digitakt. At this point we do the exact same thing on track 2. Source, MIDI, channel 2, track 3, MIDI channel 3, track 4, MIDI 4, track 5, and here we go to put MIDI channel 10. Notice that for the drum you have to set the octave -2. That's where you have to go to get the same sound. And that's not the end of it, because we can do one more thing. From Digitakt, we can set up control change parameters to go and change, for example, the filter of or the resonance of the SH-4d. Let's take an example on the bass, which is what I like the most. If I go to the setup page here, I have the option of activating a control by pressing Function and the corresponding knob. Not only that, if I go on the second page of the setup menu, I can operate the MIDI learn. Okay, let's do the same for resonance. Go to the second page, we activate the MIDI learn, we turn the knob of the resonance of SH-4d, and then we click again the knob that we want to control it. We try and the resonance is also controlled. But it's not over yet, because now if you go back to the first page of the setup menu, holding down function and the knob, for example, of the cutoff here, the naming menu is activated. With Digitakt 2, we finally have the ability to name our external MIDI controls. Cool, isn't it? Okay, now we've set up MIDI controls for the bass and we've also given them a name. Great. Now we can compose our beat on Digitakt. Let's start with the drum. We set these streaks to C3, which corresponds to our kick in SH-4d. Mind you, you can only put one note per track, as Digitakt is monophonic per track. Now the bass, track 3. The note is C5. Now let's go play with the filter and resonance. Now let's move to track 4, our pad. We're happy with that. Now some arpeggios. Now let's go to track 1, where we have a lead. Live recording. I was on track 16, that's why it wasn't working. Let's go back to track 1. OK. If you are not satisfied with our timing, we can try to quantize. Now it is time to add one more track, so that we can go beyond the 5 made available by SH-4d. So we choose one from Digitakt once. Let's take this clap and use the Digitakt's Euclidean sequencer. We choose an odd sequence duration, for example 31, so as to avoid excessive repetitiveness. we are satisfied, we exit the Euclidean sequencer while pressing function, and at this point everything we have accomplished with the Euclidean functions remains written in the sequence. Well, we have come to the end of this video. I hope you enjoyed it. I thank you for subscribing to my channel and see you next month.